So I thought I'd talk a little bit about grace this year as we're coming to the end of the year. I hope that you had a good Christmas. I hope you had a good year. This is the last service of the year, so next week we'll be coming back and it'll be 2025. It's just crazy because I remember when it turned 2000, and that was like a big deal. That was a quarter of a century ago, which feels like not that long ago at all. I don't have a long message to give today. I just wanted to share some thoughts as we come to the end of the year, some personal reflection, a little bit about grace, and hope that it's meaningful for you. I'm very grateful that we could spend a little bit of time away we spent about 10 days or so in Missouri. We visited Adonia's relatives and got to spend some time with Felicia and Tremont and her kids there and just celebrate Christmas. It rained almost every day, but I heard it was really nice here, so that's good. But it was still really nice there, even if we were inside most of the time. And it was really nice. I'm grateful for my dad for giving the message while we were gone. I heard it was really good. And we kind of have this tradition where it just kind of happened. But every year we drive to Missouri and we drive back. And it's a long drive. And we're driving through eastern Colorado, through Kansas, and through Missouri. It's like about 15 hours altogether. And 90% of the drive is just nothing. Yeah, it's flat. There's almost nothing to look at. And of course, we're in a hurry. We just want to get there. So we're not really stopping along the way, even though there's some cool things to see. There's caves and things like that. But we just kind of focus on getting through as quickly as possible, being as efficient as possible. When the kids were younger, we would drive through the night. But that, it's gotten difficult to do. And now that the kids are older, we just let them play video games and stuff the whole time. They look forward to the trip because it's that one time of the year where they can just have uninterrupted, nonstop video game time. So it makes the trip very special for them, for that and other reasons. But on the way back, it's always around this time or close to the end of the year. And so it's kind of become a tradition of ours to, we have all this long drive, there's nothing to look at, and so we just talk about stuff. We talk about how the year was and what we're kind of thinking about, how we feel about it, what we want for the coming year, where we feel like we're at with our lives. And I found it to be something I look forward to. It's kind of therapeutic almost. And often I end up discovering things about the year that I didn't even realize happened. I'm sure that for all of you as well, you've had some opportunity to think about all the things that may have happened in the year. I find that it's always a mixed bag, right? It's never always good, all good. It's not all bad. It's a little bit of everything. But I know that a lot of things happened this year, and some of you lost loved ones. Some of you experienced new life in some way in your life. Had some big life changes, and some people may be very happy about, proud about how the way that the year went, and some of you may not be feeling too great. And in between, there's like a million things, right? But I think that the bringing in of the new year, even though I know not even everybody celebrates this as the new year, but coming to this new year is a really good time, I think, to just step back and think about and reflect on and pray about and offer up the year, all the good, the bad, and everything in between. What happened? And to think about what we want for our life in the coming year, or what we want for our life going forward. I think it's a very important time to share with God and to share with people in our life about our time and the things that happen, and also about our hopes going forward. I think coming to the end of the year is kind of like coming to a milestone or a birthday in a way. It's a very real, it's a very raw kind of opportunity because, you know, I think sometimes we can go through life automatically, or we can sugarcoat or romanticize life. But sometimes I think these are kind of really healthy milestones to look back on and be like, okay, you know, to be honest with ourselves and to be honest with others and to be honest with God about where we're at. So when we were driving back, one of the things that I had started but never finished was I had thought to myself that I wanted to write a letter to a number of my old friends of faith that I have made over the years through missions programs, workshops, or whatever, events. And kind of reach out to them and share like a life update. I felt like for me this year was, I think for both of us, this year was kind of a milestone year in a lot of ways. I turned 40. I don't know. One thing that keeps popping into my mind is, according to the average life expectancy, my life is halfway over. I keep thinking that, even though I know it's like ridiculous. And you know, that's average, right? So unfortunately, many people die young. So hopefully, if I stay healthy and do all the right things, I can live a long, good life. But according to the average, halfway over. Okay, I've just been thinking about that. I was like, oh, it's not something I want to think about, but it seems important, meaningful. Anyway, out of that, I was like, man, I got to reach out to these people. Some of these people I haven't talked to in decades, you know? And I keep saying to myself, oh, that's not good. I need to reach out to keep people. I need to keep friendships. I need to, you know, keep up with people in my life. They were important to me. They're still important to me, but I haven't really talked to them. So I kind of wrote a long update and shared, you know, how Adonia and I are doing and the work with pastoring, because a lot of people don't know. You know, I didn't send it to any of you because you hear it almost weekly, like how our kids are doing and our sabbatical and all this stuff, right? But you know, a lot of people that I know I haven't really kept in touch with, and many times if I do spend time with them, we're not really talking about church life or pastoring or anything, because I just trying to catch up with the last 10 years or whatever. And so I really wanted to just share how things have been. And one of the things that, and it was really great. I got a lot of responses, actually. It was just so nice to hear from people. And I actually ended up reading that letter a number of times, the letter that I sent to people. And one of the things that I actually kind of understood after I reread our letter many times was that if you really look at your life, you can find a lot of things to be grateful for. You can find a lot of things to feel blessed about. And I came to realize our life is very blessed in a lot of ways. And in some ways, I could look at, you know, personal decisions or efforts that we made. But actually, more than anything, when I looked at, especially these last 10 years of pastoring and the community and the friendships and the relationships and the role models and all the memories and experiences that have come about, especially in these last 10 years, it was very overwhelming for me in a way, actually. Besides the efforts, our own personal efforts, we just feel like it's really God's grace in so many ways that we could have the experiences that we've had. It wasn't because we were specifically expected them or trying for them or deserved them, but it just kind of happened. And I think it happened because of the foundation of sincere effort and devotion that I think everybody has put in. It's not like it would be hard for me to point at any one thing. So I kind of saw this as like a shared grace, or like a communal grace, or a community grace. That was the thing that came to my mind, which I had never thought of before. We think of grace, especially this time of year, right? We think of grace with Jesus and the crucifixion and all these things. Or we think of grace with, like, our true parents and their sacrifice and the blessing and everything. We don't think so much about grace in terms of like the community sense of like spreading. The thing that comes to my mind when I think about this kind of a grace is like, as a community, as individuals, we go through our personal journey, right? And we have our personal victories, and we have our personal challenges and our burdens and the things that we have to digest in life. And those don't really go away, right? That's a personal experience, personal journey. But when you bring community into it in a good way, in a healthy way, it gives opportunity to spread all that out, to share. So when a person receives a lot of blessing and a lot of good things in their life and a lot of grace in their life, then they have opportunity to like share that. It gets spread out. It doesn't stay with one person. It spreads out. Everyone gets a chance to experience a little bit of it. And likewise, when one person goes through tragedy or hardship, it also provides a platform for which that can be shared and spread. Not in like, we don't want to share our tragedy, right? But we can, but if we all take on a little bit of that hardship, it becomes a lot lighter of a burden on the person who maybe it came onto. It doesn't disappear completely, but it's easier, maybe a little bit more manageable. And I think that that's something that I never really thought of. I've always valued community, especially growing up in Casper, Wyoming, and never really feeling like I had much of a community. I always looked forward to coming here, hanging out with David and different people, Young Il. But in terms of grace and our day-to-day life and our dreams and ambitions and hopes and experiences in the year, when we reflected on the last 10 years, I realized, wow, this is like, it's really like not my experience or our experience. It's like a shared experience. And what was cool was I could share that with all these people that they live all over the place. I wrote people in China and France and Texas and Washington and just all over the place. And not everyone's having that experience. And I think that we don't experience enough grace in our lives, to be honest. To feel that God loves me and that God looks past my mistakes and my shortcomings and forgives me and believes in me regardless of all those things. We need to experience that personally, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't feel it. And I realize that one of the beauties of the community is that we can share grace with one another. We can offer that same sense of peace and forgiveness and looking beyond shortcomings to each other. So maybe somebody is not actually experiencing or feeling it in their life for one reason or another, but we can extend it to one another. And, I know for myself, it's hard sometimes. Sometimes I don't feel like extending grace. Yeah. Even this morning, We woke up and there was like charring all over the kitchen floor, and I was like, what is this? And I knew that somebody in our family had done something last night after we went to bed and wouldn't own up to it. And I was like, I don't feel like extending grace in this moment. The house could have burned down or something. I don't know what was going to happen, but it was like black stuff all over the floor. It was somewhat cleaned up, but not really. It's also on this person's sweater. But when we asked her about it, nope, no idea. So even like in those times and in our experiences with one another, sometimes we feel like we don't really want to extend that grace to each other, or even in our own family. I won't judge you. But I think it's something that we need to strive for, to be more and more experiencing God's grace in our lives and extending it to one another. It's in our vision statement even. We are a church that isn't a church, but a family where the experience of community, love, and God's grace abound. God's grace. It's a vision statement. It doesn't mean that's where we're at. It just means that's what we're striving for. So, this is a nice verse from Matthew 11. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is from the Divine Principle. It is written in the Bible, the prayer of faith will save the sick man. Your faith has made you well, and for everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. These verses confirm that God predestines his will to be fulfilled, contingent upon human beings completing their portion of responsibility. We should recognize that from these examples, how minuscule the human portion of responsibility is in comparison to God's toil and grace, which is his portion of responsibility. So, God's portion, God's work, God's grace in our life is already being worked in us, in our community. So this is a little bit of my reflection on the end of the year and on my year about grace and how actually as a community, if we share responsibility, if we make like a group effort with sincerity, that we get a lot more benefit than just our own individual efforts. And it's given me a much greater appreciation for what's happening here. So thank you. I'd like to finish by reading one final Bible quote from Ephesians. This is from Paul, writing from prison. Therefore, I, a prisoner for serving the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of your calling, for you have been called by God. Always be humble and gentle, be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. Make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace, for there is one body and one Spirit, just as you have been called to one glorious hope for the future. And do not bring sorrow to God's Holy Spirit by the way you live. Remember, he has identified you as his own, guaranteeing that you will be saved on the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, our dearest Heavenly Parent. Thank you for allowing us all to join together today on this last Sunday before the new year comes around. I'm very grateful, Heavenly Parent, for every person here and for the community that you have made possible. Heavenly Parent, we stand here today because you intervened in our lives in some form or fashion, Heavenly Parent. We are here today because of your grace and your presence in our lives and in this world. And you have worked in our lives in ways in which we didn't deserve, in which we didn't ask for. And even now, Heavenly Parent, you are preparing our lives for the future. And I pray, Heavenly Parent, that as we finish the year, that we can offer to you our hopes and dreams and thoughts for the future, and also just all the things that happened this year, Heavenly Parent. It's just, there's, in a year, so many things happen. And we go through so many experiences and emotions, Heavenly Parent, and you know it all. But as your children, we want to offer up those things to you. Maybe there's a lot of disappointment or frustrations, Heavenly Parent, and unfulfilled hopes. And I just pray, Heavenly Parent, that we can embrace those things as a family of faith, as a community, to support one another and extend grace to one another. And Heavenly Parent, that in your eyes, that we can be lifted up, that we can be encouraged, and that we can make greater strides. And hopefully, Heavenly Parent, in the years to come, we can see our deepest heart's desires and hopes to be fulfilled through you and with you. And I offer this prayer in our names as blessed central families. Amen and adieu. Adieu. Thank you.